Hello and welcome to Ask Ron, a very, very different Ask Ron today. Now, this has nothing to do with bodybuilding. I know this is muscular development. I'm also a huge horror fan, horror movie fan. A lot of you guys are too, based on some of the discussions we have on the forum, the No Bull forum on muscular development, and Halloween sequel. The sequel to the original Halloween just came out. I'll have to explain the sequel thing in a little more detail. There are going to be spoilers in this, so if you haven't seen it and don't want it ruined for you, don't watch this. You can watch it after, you know. But the original Halloween, 1978, was a low-budget movie. Really had no big names in it. Jamie Lee Curtis wasn't really a big name yet. That movie really launched her career big time. Donald Pleasance, British actor, you know, not a huge star, more of a character actor in our movie. So he was a James Bond villain. Anyway, it was a a masterpiece of horror. It was made on a low budget, made so much money, and it spawned an entire subgenre of horror movies that didn't exist up until then, the slasher movie. You could argue maybe Texas Chainsaw Massacre and a couple other movies were in that vein, but this was a solitary killer just going around killing teenagers, usually sexually active teenagers, using drugs. That became like the formula, and there were so many crappy imitations that followed. None of them were as good, not one. And even the sequels to Halloween, the second one, Halloween 2, pretty good. It was pretty good. It was on par with the first, not as good, but then there was a few of those that followed that were just horrific. Then Rob Zombie did a remake of Halloween 1 and 2 about 10 years ago. I actually like those because I like Rob Zombie movies. I like the style, the crazy colors and the framing, the editing. Just he makes his movies very, very differently than most filmmakers do. They're unique. You know you're watching a Rob Zombie movie when you're watching one. So let's get into this one. So the premise of this is that in this universe, the only film or the only thing that actually happened was the events of Halloween Night, the first movie. And after that, the Halloween 2 that came out a few years later, I believe it was 80 or 81, that never happened. So he never went off to the hospital to find Laurie, his sister, and go on another killing rampage at the hospital. That never happened. In the universe of this Halloween movie, he was apprehended after being shot 6 times, falling out the second-story window, splat onto the backyard, the lawn of that house, and he was somehow still alive, and he was apprehended and put back in a mental institution for 40 years. So this movie starts out 2018. It's supposed to be 40 years later, and he's in this institution, and these two British guy and girl want to interview him for a podcast, and it's kind of ridiculous. He ends up being transferred, escaping, and the plot line of this, it's very similar because that's what happens in the first Halloween movie. Is he's supposedly about 21 or 22 years old, somewhere in that age range. He had killed his sister and the sister's boyfriend. No, I think he just killed the sister. His sister on Halloween night, yeah, when he was 7 years old. So anyway, he's back. He's back, escaped yet again from an institution. So it's following a very similar plot line to the first one. And this is where it kind of gets tricky or mixed up for me. Is in the first Halloween movie, Jamie Lee Curtis, much younger back then, she played Laurie Strode, and she was the main character. Everything revolved around Laurie, basically, in the movie. This movie could not make up its mind whether Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode, now like about 60 years old, or her granddaughter Allison, who's supposed to be in high school, who's the main character. Because at various times we're following both of them, and I couldn't really get into this character of her granddaughter, feeling like it was somebody, like a real fleshed out 3D character that I cared about, I had empathy for, I worried what was going to happen to her. I didn't want her to die or anything, but you didn't really feel, Jamie Lee Curtis, she helped spawn that genre because not just the Michael Myers character, which is, iconic now, obviously, but she played the victim or the heroine, I guess, because she survived so well, and you felt her terror, and you felt every emotion, that she was feeling. This girl, Allison, I don't know, I wasn't feeling it with her. And the Jamie Lee Curtis character now, she's still traumatized. She's basically like a doomsday prepper. Her house is basically a fortress against Michael Myers. She's got a bunch of guns, not as cool guns as I would have had. If I thought this guy was coming back one day to kill me, I think I would have got some better firepower than what she had. She just had couple basic revolvers, couple rifles, shotgun. I would have had like, I don't know, a 50 cal rifle with like armor piercing rounds or something to try to take out this unstoppable killing machine. And so the end is a big showdown. He finds Jamie Lee Curtis's house. And one thing that really annoyed me about this movie is another thing that made the first Halloween so much cooler to me and scarier was Haddonfield felt like a much smaller town. It was you could really believe that all this was happening. Just he was walking here, walking there. Everything seemed to be just like blocks away from another. The Haddonfield in this movie seemed much, much larger. There was a lot more open spaces. I don't know how this guy, because Michael Myers is supposed to be over 60 at this point, incredibly strong, I might add, like supernaturally strong with the things he's able to do in this movie. It's possible for someone like the Mountain to do a lot of these things, but this guy's supposed to have been locked up for 40 years, not exercising or anything like that. They said he sits around, he stands and stares into space. But yeah. So if I had to, I'm not going to give away the complete ending. I think that's really rude if I did that. So, but I would say it's worth seeing if you could see it like a matinee and save a few bucks or something. You could definitely wait for it to come to on demand or Netflix, DVD, Blu-ray, whatever. It's not that great. It's not horrible. I actually did prefer the Rob Zombie remake and Halloween 2, the sequel, to this. This just it kind of dragged in parts, and it could have been much more exciting. I don't know. I wanted more. I expected more. When I heard John Carpenter was associated strongly with this one, I was really, really hoping it was going to be another like an updated version of Halloween or Halloween 2 from the old days. Something really cool, something edgy, original. Yeah, left me wanting. But it's October. It's a great month to go see horror movies. There's plenty of them on your cable stations. Plenty of them coming out in the theaters. So let's hope something else comes out better. But that's been my review of Halloween, the 2018 version. I'm going to give it out of 4 stars. I'm going to give it 2.5. I'm going to give it 1 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down. It's all right. It's not terrible, but yeah. So Ask Ron will go back to its previously scheduled bodybuilding type discussions next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.